Hello everyone, this is Chris Hitchell here, and welcome to a special Star Wars video I'm doing in honor of The Last Jedi. Obviously, The Last Jedi is super close to being released. By the time some of y'all listen to this video, you've already seen the movie, but for me, I'm at least a couple days away from seeing the movie, so I figured this would be a good time to do a ranking of all 9 Star Wars movies. I was thinking about doing a video where I review all of them individually in release order, but I figured that's a little boring, so let's do something that I've never done before and rank all of the movies. My personal opinion, you don't have to agree, but this is just how I feel about the movies. And just a quick commentary, I've revisited all of the movies within the past few weeks, and I think the best order to watch the Star Wars movies is release order. I think the story, or at least the movies, just flow a whole lot better. Feels a whole lot more natural. The whole machete order is pretty decent too, but I think release order is just the best way to go for these movies. But getting aside from that, let's go ahead and start reviewing the Star Wars movies. Let's start off with number 9, with the worst of the Star Wars movies. So at number 9, I'm pretty sure most people will have either one of two movies in terms of what they consider to be the worst Star Wars movie. In my case, the worst Star Wars movie by far is Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I find this movie to be just unwatchable. It is by far the worst Star Wars movie to me. It is just a bunch of unwatchable nonsense going on. And look, I'm only 22, so I was too young to see this movie back in the day when it was released with all the hype and whatnot. I saw it back when it did have its rotten reputation, and I'm never going to jump on the bandwagon. I mean, if I enjoyed the movie, I'll say the movie's good. But this movie really does earn its rotten reputation. It's just poor in almost every aspect. Well, I'll say mainly the direction. The direction is just really, really bad with this movie. I mean, you had some decent elements in terms of setting up a prequel trilogy, but it's just not a fun watch at all, man. Mainly, of course, because Jar Jar Binks. Jar Jar Binks, horrible, annoying character, just not fun at all. And really, he's really what relates to my main problem with the movie is that it's just a bunch of fake-looking, unfun CGI nonsense. I mean, this movie just does not hold up well at all. I mean, I'm sure it was okay back in the day, but watching it now, it's just a bunch of CG crap all over the place. And in terms of just comparing it to what came before, the original trilogy, just not all that well directed, man. And ultimately, the movie commits the cardinal sin that really a Star Wars movie should never do, which is that it's just boring. Throughout so much of it, just not a whole lot going on. And who can forget that infamous crawl about taxation and shred federations and politics, blah, 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 those Senate hearings. Terrible, terrible stuff. So, yeah, for me, even though, like I said, no movie is bad all the way through, this one was pretty bad in most aspects, except for just a few little touches here and there. So in the end, The Phantom Menace is by far the worst Star Wars movie to me. Now, in this number 8 spot, it was kind of a debate for me. It was two movies that really, I just go neck and neck between which one I actually think is better. Now, when I reveal what one of those movies were, some Star Wars fans might find it to be a bit blasphemous, but this is just how I feel. But ultimately, at number 8, I'm going to go with Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Which, Attack of the Clones, what I should put this disclaimer out, is that Phantom Menace is the only Star Wars movie that I really just don't like as a movie at all. But all the rest of them, I actually do enjoy to some degree, obviously some more than others. But getting to Attack of the Clones, a lot of film junkies put it as the worst Star Wars movie, and I just don't feel that way at all. I think it's a much better movie than The Phantom Menace, like much better in almost every aspect. It is a way more watchable movie, and one that I actually sort of enjoy. Now, like I said, I have it at number 7. I'm not saying it's great by any means. I think there's some really good elements, but ultimately, by the sound of things, it's going to sound like I'm defending the movie more, just because I don't think it deserves the hate that it gets. And mainly the reason why is because I think that obviously things get off to a much better start by the fact that now we're not dealing with a super young Anakin Skywalker. We can really get into the meat of the prequel saga, what the whole thing is meant to be, starting with Darth Vader, how he comes to be. And maybe people will cringe at this. I thought the story between the scenes between him and Padme, Anakin and Padme, I thought they were all right. Once you get the fact that she was pining after this little kid in the Phantom Menace, then growing up now, I thought those scenes actually worked pretty well, and I thought there was some really sort of a decent storyline going throughout that movie. I like that we got to see more of Yoda, him doing his battle thing, Obi-Wan and Anakin, their scenes together, I thought were pretty decent. I just thought the direction overall was a lot better. I know a lot of people don't like what they did with Boba Fett, but prequels are always going to reveal some interesting things about characters. I didn't mind it too much. This movie, and I thought there was actually some pretty good humor throughout the movie, especially with some of the stuff with R2D2 and C3PO. I like what they had to do with this movie. Ultimately, this movie's problem is that it is the longest Star Wars movie, and by the end, you really do feel the length. I mean, it just goes on for too long, and then once you get to the whole gladiator pit thing, it's like the pacing just feels a little off, and the movie doesn't end as strong as I thought a lot of the middle part of the movie was. Because, like I said, throughout most of the movie, I'm thinking, hey, this ain't so bad. But once you get to the end of the movie, it starts to go too long. That's where, like, okay. But for me, not a bad movie by any means. And far from being the worst of the Star Wars movies. I actually think this one doesn't deserve the hit at all. Phantom Menace, by far the worst. This one, even though it's 7, I actually, the way I talk about it, I have to somewhat defend it just because I don't think it deserves the hate. But anyways, it is the number 8 ranking for Star Wars movies for me. So at number 7, I'm gonna have Return of the Jedi. Like I said, my 7 and 8 spots, I was going back and forth between the two, between Return of the Jedi and Attack of the Clones. A lot of people think that's blasphemous to Return of the Jedi, but Return of the Jedi, it's just. Let me talk about what I did like about the movie, first of all, which is the opening, I think, is fun. The whole rescuing Han stuff. Jabba the Hutt, I absolutely love. He's one of my favorite Star Wars characters. He's just such an entertaining, great character to observe. He's so good. The scenes with Luke and Darth, Darth Vader's character development, that was good. Some good action scenes. The final battle, the space battle, that's good. Luke versus Darth, whole bunch of good stuff. So, and I think it wraps up the trilogy pretty nicely. There's nice development through all 3 movies of that original saga. So what goes wrong? Well, it's the whole battle on the forest planet of Endor is what if I'm remembering right, is what it's called. To me, and a lot of people know what happens with this movie, those damn Ewoks. The Ewoks absolutely kill this movie. Everything that goes on that damn forest planet, which I hope I got the name right, it's just flat out bad. Like, they get to that planet, and every time I watch the movie, I just get bored. It's like you had such a dark, epic movie with Empire Strikes Back, and then you get to Return of the Jedi, and it turns into the fucking Muppet Show with these damn annoying-ass teddy bears just taking up so much screen time, just unnecessary, just dumb shit. And obviously, we all know about the fact that they're the ones that basically won the final battle. But the old trilogy was building up to a bunch of teddy bears taking out a bunch of stormtroopers. So if I sound angry, it's because I am, just because I can't believe how badly they effed up the ending of this movie. It's just I just don't like the part of this movie at all. But like I said, the movie does have a whole lot of good elements going for it that's hard to ignore. Like I said, as a closing to the trilogy, even though it does fuck up a lot of stuff, especially in that second half, there is lots of good stuff in there, as I mentioned, the whole Luke and Darth's character relation or development and their relationship, and ultimately the decision Vader comes to at the end. That's really good stuff. And then ultimately, when you get to that part and the whole trilogy sort of wraps up in the context of that, it is good stuff. So, like I said, between this one and Attack of the Clones maybe had more of an uphill battle, and maybe it gets too much hate. Maybe that's why I sort of sounded more positive about it. But Return of the Jedi, I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. I hate those Ewoks, and they make me just sort of meh on this movie overall. And anyone who thinks it's better than Empire Strikes Back, I just don't get it all. But anyways, Return of the Jedi, it is my number 7 in terms of ranking for Star Wars movies. Now, at number 6, we have a movie that I'm genuinely pretty enthusiastic about, and that is Episode 3, The Revenge of the Sith. Now this is the movie of the prequel series that mostly everyone will agree that, hey, you know what, that was all right. That was decent. Is what even most people say. But for me, I really enjoy the movie. It is even as someone who didn't mind Attack of the Clones, as I mentioned before, this movie is by far the best out of all the prequel movies. And I just really enjoy how everything comes to a close in this movie. And what's really important to mention here is that context matters. This is a prequel series, so the whole thing is setting up the original trilogy. And I think this movie does a really good job coming to that setup. The whole thing is like once we get to Anakin, we've been waiting for this, him to finally go bad. And while most people may not like the portrayal of Anakin in these movies, I think it's all right. And like I said, seeing the whole thing about him and how the Emperor came to be, I really enjoy seeing that setup. Like I said, it being a prequel, that context really matters. And really to get to the whole tragic nature of things and how most of how this sets up those original movies. Obviously, what happens to Padme, Anakin going to the dark side, ultimately the Emperor, how he comes to be, and how Obi-Wan and Yoda end up having to go into exile. I really enjoyed that stuff, man. I think it's a really solid, legit, good movie all the way through. I absolutely, once we get to that final 40 or 30 minutes, I absolutely love, like I said, that lightsaber battle. I think is really good, even though I wasn't a fan of a lot of the lightsaber stuff in this prequel movie. I thought it looked too choreographed. That final battle between Obi-Wan and Anakin, I really, really did enjoy that. And like I said, once you get closer to the end, and it's stuff just feels so magical, setting up that original trilogy. A prequels when done right, once you get to that moment where stuff is really set up, it can really leave a big smile on your face. In this movie, especially that final shot of baby Luke with his aunt and uncle, I just absolutely love that stuff. But even with removing the prequel context, which does help the movie, I think it is pretty solid all the way through. And it's a movie that I legit enjoy and I'll defend. And I'll defend any movie I really like. But if someone tells me that Revenge of the Sith, that one's garbage, I don't really agree with that. And like I said, the movie does have some problems. Once again, an over reliance on robots. General Grievous, I'm not sure why they really needed him in this movie. He wasn't all that great. He looked kind of interesting, but once again, another robot not crazy about. But getting the bad aside, the good I mentioned before, this is a movie I legit enjoy, and it is my sixth favorite Star Wars movie. A movie that I think is legit, well, enjoyable. Nah, forget enjoyable. I'll say it's good. I definitely like the movie. So at number four, yes, I finally caught my counting issue. I was counting The Last Jedi, so nine Star Wars movies in total, but obviously only eight I can rank. So finally caught that. But anyways, at number four, we have a movie that has actually become pretty polarizing within the Star Wars community. And that movie, of course, is Star Wars The Force Awakens. We'll get into what this movie did good and what it did bad, because this is probably the most interesting of all the films to talk about. But obviously, this movie's main mission was to bring back the feel of the original trilogy. Obviously, the prequel sort of differentiated in terms of how they felt, sort of the direction. A lot of people didn't like the over-reliance on CG and just the feel, the direction. This movie was trying to bring us back to that feel of the original trilogy. And I thought it did that really, really well. I think that just it's really you get to the start of this movie and just the filmmaking, it feels like a good classic blockbuster, yet obviously bringing into the new millennia. I thought it did a great job of bringing the feel of those original movies into the new millennium. And when it comes to the characters, I just think these characters are just so damn good. There's a reason these characters are really damn popular. I mean, the way they set up Rey, Finn, Kylo Ren, BB-8, this great new droid. I started just those characters. Poe Dameron, he was fun. I just thought it did a great job of bringing in new characters that we want to follow going into The Last Jedi. That's why we're so excited. And I thought it did a good job of balancing that new blood with the old blood of the series. Your Han Solos, your Leias, your Chewbacca's. Obviously, you didn't get a whole lot of Luke, but that was the story, what it was. Sure, people were disappointed at first, but we've come to accept it, especially what we're going to get with The Last Jedi. So that was really good, the balancing of new blood and old blood. And like I said, just the great feel of this movie. It's a fun film to watch, enjoyable, really enjoyable all the way through. So what went wrong? Well, we all know what the problem with this movie was, is that I think the direction was just, and all the new elements this movie brought to the table were so damn good, mainly throughout the first two-thirds of this movie. It's when you get into that final third that the movie turns into that sort of carbon copy of A New Hope. Once you get to that scene where they're all in a room talking about how the hell we're going to blow up this second Death Star, Star Destroyer, which, hey, look, it's 10 times bigger than the Death Star. What do you freaking do? It's just another Death Star. That's not all that good. That's kind of disappointing. And the fact that we replicate another trench run, we blow up the Death Star again, we're going in looking for a girl inside this Death Star, that's not, you really wish there could have been more originality. But it's not like that final third of the movie was a total bust. I really enjoy the I still enjoy the characters. I like the lightsaber duel between Rey and Kylo Ren. I like how that duel was portrayed. We still get good characters. We can still get good humor. I didn't mention that the humor is really good in this movie. Stuff, like I said, seeing all the old characters again. I thought the movie was just a really good movie all the way through. And that's what Star Wars needed. It needed a legit good movie. Even though I'm someone who will defend episodes 2 and 3, it needed a movie that most people can generally get behind. And I thought this movie did that pretty well. I thought it was a good job of bringing in what I call this new revival era of Star Wars, bringing Star Wars back to the mainstream with a movie everyone can get behind. I thought it did that pretty well. Obviously, so the problem with it being with too many similarities to A New Hope, but that doesn't take away from this movie being a legit, good, very enjoyable movie by its end. So it is my fourth favorite Star Wars movie. So, like my battle between my number 7 and 6 spots, it was really close between my number 3 and 2 spots. And ultimately, I always got to go with how I really feel. At number 3, I went with the original Star Wars movie, A New Hope. Some people may think that's blasphemous, especially when they see what I have as number 2. But I'm going to concentrate on what I have at number 3, A New Hope. And this movie is just so damn iconic. I mean, just so much great stuff came from the movie. It is just the perfect adventure movie. A boy on a quest, a chosen one type thing, and just a fun sci-fi adventure all the way through. So many different elements going on. It's just so well done. It's so damn iconic. So many just great lines came from this movie. Better her than me. The force is strong with this one. These are not the droids you're looking for. It's just so much fun to watch. And that's ultimately the word I use for this movie. Is that it's just a fun watch. Fun all the way through. Fun characters. Han Solo is probably at his best here. I really love Han in this movie. Just the way it makes use of these elements and this adventure that they go on, the main group coming together. Just so damn good. And really, it's just amazing how a movie from 1977 still looks so damn good even till this day, especially the original version, not the crappy editions that they put on with this fake ass looking CG. God, I hate those editions. I wish we would get the unaltered versions on Blu-ray. So then, with all these great elements, you may be wondering why it's only at 3. Is that I look at this movie in the context of the original trilogy, meaning while the context of the prequels, you can look at it that way, this movie on its own, I don't think things are developed all that great, if I can put it that way, in terms of relationships, especially with Darth Vader and Obi-Wan. Without the context of the prequels, you kind of look at it like, well, this really isn't developing all that well, even though it's still fun. You can still go along with it. It's still fine, but it's just not sort of a consistently all that greatly developed movie in terms of its storyline, I think. Like, especially you just jumping into this movie, there's just this crawl about how the Death Star plans were just taken. It's like, well, couldn't we have seen that? Which we ultimately will. But it's like things just start off, it's not great development for the story, I'll say, even though I think it's a fun story. There are just some stuff when it comes to the story development that I think sort of holds this movie back, just looking at this movie by itself. But in terms of all the other elements, the fun that you have with these characters, really good movie overall, really fun movie, and that's why it is number 3 on my list for my favorite Star Wars movies. Now, number two, I'm not sure how popular a choice this is. It's probably not all that popular a choice. Like I said, I go back and forth between my number two and three. But as of how I feel right now, at number two, I'm going to go with Rogue One, a Star Wars story. This movie is obviously very different from all the other Star Wars movies in that it is the only one that is not really the Skywalker saga. This is just a story set in the Star Wars universe. That story is, of course, how the Death Star plans got stolen. They made a movie about that little sentence in the opening crawl. And this movie, from what it wanted to accomplish, I thought it just did it so damn well. Like I said, context is important. In the context of seeing this story unfold, I thought it was just so much fun to watch, and just the direction. It's just so different yet so good from the Star Wars movies we've seen before. This had a dark, gritty, somewhat grounded direction, if I could put it that way. Now, I'm not talking about super realistic or nothing, but just the way it was done, I just thought it was so perfect for the story. It was trying to tell the story of this ragtag groups led by Jyn Erso, following her character, what she's going through, and the context that they add to the whole Death Star and how it came about, especially that stupid weakness that they finally gave an understanding and reason to. I just thought it was so smart the way they did it that way. And and the Death Star itself, the way they used it, it had just a majestic presence. The way it was shot, sort of the way it looked, the way they would just cut to it, it just looked so damn good. So I love how they used the Death Star in this movie. But ultimately, the movie, the big highlight is that final battle. And that final battle, it's one of my all-time favorite final battles. It's just so damn good. Just the space battle up above in space, obviously, and just the battle on the beach where they get the plans that I thought was done really well also. And you really do enjoy these characters. Well, you enjoy three of them, I will say. The problem that this movie does have is that the characters outside of, I'd say, Jyn Erso, maybe Cassian and K2SO, are not all that greatly developed. And to me, that's not all that big a problem because it's not like those other guys in the group were bad characters at all. I thought they were fine. As long as you can give me good stuff from our main protagonist, which was Jyn Erso, and K2SO, he was just such a damn good droid. I love that character so much, and that's good stuff. So all the elements came together to make such an enjoyable movie for me. And like I said, context matters. And the context of seeing this story unfold, the way it was shot, directed, the action, the way they added context to the original movie, I just thought it was a home run hit. And this movie, it's got a pretty good reputation. I think most people feel the way I do. Maybe they don't have it as their number two favorite Star Wars movie, but I think a lot of people think it was a better movie than The Force Awakens, which also obviously I did like, but I thought this movie was just a lot of the elements it brought to the table. It was so unique. It was so good. And obviously the way it just leads right into A New Hope was just such a great touch. I absolutely love it. Who could forget that Darth Vader kick-ass scene at the end? That was great stuff also. So Rogue One, ultimately, for me, my personal opinion, it is my second favorite Star Wars movie of the saga. And at number one on my ranking for Star Wars movies, like most people, I got The Empire Strikes Back. I mean, what more can be said about this movie? It is just top-notch filmmaking in almost every aspect. It is just a fantastic movie all the way through. I mean, it just gets so many elements right. For one, the feel of the movie. You mean A New Hope was sort of this fun adventure. You could have fun going through it. This movie takes things really seriously, but in a good way. Just the way it's directed, the way it tells its story is so different from A New Hope, yet it's still so damn good. But just the elements this movie gets right, it just hits the checklist all the way through. The character development for all the characters, just great. Luke Skywalker learning to become a Jedi, the relationship between Han and Leia, it's just so organic and so good to watch. Darth Vader as a villain in this movie, him in this movie, one of the all-time greatest villains. This is him at his final hour, at his best. At his best, I should say. I don't know why I said it that way. This is Darth Vader at his best in this movie. I absolutely love him. Just the way he's portrayed, so damn good. Yet you could still, there's that humanity that you feel at him, especially towards the end. He's just such a great villain in this. The way it deals with the war aspect is so good. The action, the stuff with the walkers, the AT-ATs, that was fantastic on the ice planet of Hoth. The battle between Luke and Vader was so good at the end. It was just this movie, the training Yoda. What a great character! Yoda. I always wish he could have stayed the way he did when he first meets Luke. He's just so damn entertaining. Once he gets into the serious Jedi mode, he's still fine. But I really love the crazy Yoda that we see at the beginning. But that was so good. Yoda is really great in this movie. This movie, I can just keep on repeating myself, but it's the definition of a great movie. There's a reason why when people talk about sequels, they're hoping this is the Empire Strikes Back of the series, just because Empire Strikes Back, it set the bar for sequels. What a great sequel really is. Take what worked about the first film, or maybe you can just do something maybe different, yet still just tell a great story with these characters. Because that's ultimately where the movie succeeds, is that it gets the characters right and the direction is so fantastic. So yeah, ultimately, Empire Strikes Back, that is my favorite Star Wars film overall. And there you have it with my ranking for the Star Wars films. I think my list, I try not to be politically correct. I always got to speak my mind. So obviously, I think I have a couple spots where things people may not agree, but hey, that's just how I feel. Ultimately, I really enjoy. There's only one Star Wars movie I don't like. That's the Phantom Menace. All the other ones I like from various different degrees, obviously. And in terms of looking forward to The Last Jedi, I absolutely cannot wait. Like I said, I really like what they did with The Force Awakens, what they've set up for the future of the Star Wars series, and what The Last Jedi can ultimately bring us. I have no doubts that the movie, it's just, well, I don't want to jinx the movie or anything, but just from the trailers and everything that we've seen from the movie, it just looks so damn good. It looks like, I'll say it again, the Empire Strikes Back of this new series. I can just feel the emotion. I can feel the darkness, and I just cannot wait for this movie. So anyway, there you have my Star Wars ranking video. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I'll leave your list and tell me how you would rank the series. You could tell me how full of shit I am in terms of where I have certain movies, and I will ultimately see y'all around with another video. Peace.